eBay sellers, it's Suzanne A. Wells, and welcome back to my podcast, eBay the Right Way. In this episode, I have a recap of my week on eBay, something new I learned this week, and I want to share some stories about actual broken, damaged, and defective items I have sold on eBay during my career since 2003. The title of this episode is The Dark Side of eBay, Selling Damaged, Defective, and Broken Items. And the moral of the story is, before you throw that item away, try to sell it on eBay. There's one announcement I want to make sure you are aware of. eBay announced this week that the research tool Terapeak is going to be free for all sellers. In the past couple of years, I guess, eBay has offered a free subscription to Terapeak only if you had a basic store or higher. So according to this announcement, it is now available to everyone. I did not see anywhere on the announcement that the free version for everyone is any different than what we've already been seeing for basic store owners. But I'm just wondering if there are any limitations if you don't have a store, meaning only a certain number of lookups a month, or maybe it doesn't go back 365 days, or some other issue like that just wasn't in the announcement. I'm just curious, that thought crossed my mind. So if you are one of the people that do not have a basic store or higher and are now getting Terapeak for free, I would be interested to know if you're seeing any limitations on that subscription, if there's any messages across the top that say only 50 lookups a month or something like that. I'm just curious if it's any different. So I have no way to test it because I have the basic store or higher. Okay, moving on to what happened in my eBay store this week. The boomerang sale Apple mag cord sold again as soon as I listed it. And it went to Canada this time. You might remember from last week's podcast, this item has sold twice and come back twice because the buyer did not read the listing and they didn't really know what they were buying. So this time it went out of the country. And I'm wondering if, first of all, if the buyer read the listing and actually meant to buy it. And second, if they bought it by mistake, if they're going to return it, because the shipping was kind of pricey. The item sold for $25 and shipping was $17. So if the buyer returns it, they're going to be responsible for that cost. So that would be $34 out of their pocket, shipping both ways, and nothing to show for it. And this is something that happens to me frequently. I always wonder why people do that. Pay money for shipping both ways, and then they are out money with no product. I personally resell those things rather than return them. Unless, of course, the seller has free return shipping, like Amazon Prime purchases. I know that I have free return shipping if I don't like something or if it doesn't work out for me. So I guess people just aren't paying attention to the math, or they don't realize that they are plunking down money just to pay for shipping and they don't even end up with a product. Okay, I sold several swimsuits this week. It's that time of year again, so if you have swimwear in your death pile, pull those out and get them listed. What's interesting is that the swimwear I sold went to northern states. So I always wonder if those people are planning a trip or actually wearing the swimwear to do indoor water aerobics classes, like at an aquatic center where it doesn't matter what the weather is. And just a side note, this is like a stream of consciousness podcast. Things drop in my head that maybe will help you. So The side note is the brands that sell best for me are Land's End, LL Bean, Maxine of Hollywood, Longitude, Spanx, and Ralph Lauren. It's kind of a long list, but I have actually found a niche selling one-piece conservative styles, sizes 12 and up. I used to focus on more sexy swimwear like bikinis and Victoria's Secret brand, but have found that the conservative styles sell better. And yes, you can sell pre-owned swimwear. Just be sure to check for pilling around the rear end, like somebody was sitting on the side of the pool, and make sure all the fasteners work, and turn it inside out to make sure there are no rips or issues with the lining. And if it has an underwire in the bra area, make sure that underwire hasn't poked out through a hole. Those issues might be why someone donated their swimwear, because there's something wrong with it. But I find plenty that are in perfect condition to resell. So that was just a little swimwear crash course for you. Another item I sold this week was a vintage Estee Lauder perfume mini. This perfume was tiny, maybe an inch tall. It was $2 at a thrift store, and this is a thrift store that puts all their fragrances and health and beauty behind the glass counter, which is at the registers. So you really don't have time to look over everything because the cashier is ringing you up and you're kind of looking at stuff during that process, and there's always a line. So I guess you could consider this gambling in a way, because I'll just look at something behind the counter and sometimes take a chance on it, but rarely is it more than $10, so I usually get my money back on anything. But this perfume mini was $2, and I accepted a $50 offer within 24 hours. And fragrances have to go parcel select, so they paid another $8 to have it shipped to California. So that was quite exciting to sell something that fast, something that small for that much money. That kind of made my day. And then I want to tell you about an item that I found at Goodwill for $3, a Vineyard Vines tie, but it is in a pattern of Dunkin' Donuts coffee cups. It's a custom collection, so it was specially made for Dunkin' Donuts, and on the back it has the logo and everything, but I've never seen one like that. And I priced it really high at $150, because some of these custom collection logoed ties, regardless of the brand, do sell for a lot of money. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. But Dunkin' Donuts logoed tie, that might make a great gift for somebody who owns a Dunkin' Donuts, or just somebody who drinks that coffee a lot, or who knows. It was just very unusual. So for $3, I took a chance on that. And there were none on active listings or completed listings going back a year on Terapeak. I couldn't find another one like it on the internet anywhere. So it is unique and unusual, and I'm going to hold firm on my price for a while. Okay, moving on to something new I learned this week. And this section isn't always about a thing I learned that we can sell. It's about business concepts or just anything that was new to me that could help me with my eBay business. So I learned that not everybody wants their information electronically, and some people like physical materials for learning and organizing information. Things like notebooks with pages you can highlight, margins you can write in, to-do lists, all those fun school and office supply kinds of things. And this helped me see that maybe there are other ways I can help sellers learn. So let me explain the story. I went to a friend's house for a couple of days to help her get started on eBay. And she's brand new to eBay. She is a lifelong friend and one of the smartest people I have ever known. I don't just go to anybody's house to help them. They've got to be a really good friend. And I have to enjoy spending time with them because this went on for 2 days. Anyway, she retired from a 30-plus year career in banking and commercial lending and understands business and entrepreneurs. So as I was explaining things to her and working through listing her first few items, she mentioned that it would be nice to have a notebook or some physical materials to help with the learning process and managing the business as it grows. And I had never thought of that. I just assumed the masses of people out there listening to me only want electronic information. So we had a long brainstorming session about this idea, and she just had so many valid points. Now, she's a baby boomer, as a large percentage of my audience is, and she explained that she doesn't really like being forced to do everything on a phone or a computer. Now, don't get me wrong, she's very tech savvy, can do anything, but I can totally relate to what she was saying because I don't like every single thing in my life being electronic or done on a phone or a computer. For example, recipes. I don't like following a recipe on an electronic device. I like a book or a card or a piece of paper. And you should see some of my recipes on cards that I've had for 35 years. I mean, they look like they've been set out on the counter when I'm cooking. But that's just how my brain works. So after our very interesting and enlightening conversation, I am now entertaining the idea of creating an eBay learning system of physical materials to help sellers, especially beginners, organize their business and serve as a help manual. The concept is a notebook that pages are added to over time, like a monthly subscription box, but with notebook pages, laminated pages that you can write on and wipe off, flow charts, similar to something you would see with homeschool, where the subscription follows a curriculum. So every month it builds on what you already know. And my vision is a hybrid of an employee handbook, educational curriculum, and a planner and organizer. So it's informational, practical, interesting, and fun. I already have a lot of the tools and materials created virtually spread out everywhere on the internet, like free downloads or part of the premium library, or just things I've made up for myself that I use that maybe other people might like. So I understand that not everyone has time to watch videos, and some of us old school like baby boomers and Gen Xers like a notebook and hard copies of things. And I call that the writer-downer generation because I'm that person. I like to look at a book for some things and have a physical educational material. So there's just so much to remember about this business, and it can be very scattered everywhere. So this would be pulling all of that together. And I remember back up until about the mid-2000s, I belonged to clubs like Recipe of the Month, Craft of the Month, or Educational Thing of the Month for when my kids were toddlers and preschoolers, where I received a packet of information in the mail every month and just added it to a notebook. So I wonder if sellers would like something like this. A notebook that organizes important information that you can refer to rather than everything being electronic. And I know my information is scattered everywhere, so this could definitely help pull it all together in one place. And I'm really not thinking of PDFs or downloads here, but a physical packet that you get in the mail each month. I mean, I love getting mail, and I hardly ever get anything anymore except bills and eBay returns, and that's not fun. But if I mailed this out, I could put other fun stuff in there too that isn't just paper. It's kind of hard to download a 3D physical product that you're going to use for educational purposes. You can't download that. It has to be mailed to you. So I posted a poll on my Facebook group. So if you haven't voted yet, I would really love your input on this idea. My gut feeling, this is my prediction, is that there are a lot of people who aren't admitting that they like things on paper or getting stuff in the mail, but they go along with technology because that's the only option. Or maybe they just learn enough to get by on social media, email, and doing eBay, but they really do like hard copies of things. So envisioning my Facebook group with thousands of eBay sellers or my YouTube channel with comments under videos, who's really going to say that they struggle with technology when thousands of other people are going to see that comment? I feel like people from the writer downer generations have been shamed into not admitting that they aren't 100% on board with all technology. And they kind of just struggle to get by and participate. So if that's you and you like this idea, I would love to hear from you. You can comment in my Facebook group. You can comment on my YouTube channel. You can send me an email. My email is suzanne@suzanneawells.com. And I really do appreciate any input you have on that topic. Okay, next up is what was added to the premium library this week. I'm now up to 390 videos, 111 hours of education. The new material this week is the monthly Q&A, where I go through questions asked by members and make a podcast out of it, because you can always learn by other people's struggles. And a note to premium members, if you aren't receiving the weekly email, it could be for two reasons. You may have your preferences set to not receive promotional emails, and the weekly update falls under that category, but my guarantee is that I will never advertise or spam to you through email. That's not my purpose. The only emails I ever send are the weekly updates. And sometimes they may go into your spam folder. It appears that this week's email did go into a lot of people's spam folders. I've been hearing that they didn't receive it and then asked them to check their spam, and there it was. So it may be because of the way it was titled. You just never know. But you can always log in and check the monthly updates page to see what's been added for that month, and also your spam folder, which I apologize if it gets routed that way. Okay, let's move on to the main topic, selling damaged and defective items. And I want to do a little disclaimer here about the content of this podcast. Well, any content I create. I have this little voice in the back of my head that says, "You already told them that." Or, "This was in a video 3 years ago." I remember everything I create and where it is. Or it could be a question I answer frequently on my Facebook group, or it was in a blog post. I assume that everyone out there has been exposed to everything I have ever created, and that's really faulty thinking. I have 900 videos on YouTube, and I'm sure you haven't had time to go through all of them, so you may not have heard this information. But I always strive to create new content that is relevant in the moment I'm creating anything. But new people are always coming to eBay, and maybe they haven't heard everything yet. I can see how some topics can be missed with the amount of content that is out there on the internet, and it's a lot to sift through. I mean, if you're brand new to eBay, and you found me 2 weeks ago, of course you haven't been through all of my content. So the reason I'm so conscientious about creating new and current content is when I started on eBay back in the early 2000s, so much content online was outdated and not helpful. It was a waste of time to try to find the answer because the information was outdated. So when I'm creating content, I want it to be useful so other sellers could actually benefit from it today, or at least as soon as possible. And if you're not a content creator, you have no idea what a monumental task it is to keep everything current. I mean, nobody goes back and removes old, outdated YouTube videos. We just create new, updated ones. That's why you see things like how to sell on eBay in 2021, because it changes all the time. And creators put the date in the title so you'll know when it was created. But creating useful and current content has been my commitment to my audience since I started doing this. And if you look at the big gurus like Dave Ramsey, Martha Stewart, Robert Kiyosaki, people who teach things to their audience, you will hear some content over and over again. I accept that as a follower of these people, but I do want to apologize if you've already been exposed to some of my content before. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I do like to revisit information that has worked for me over the years to explain that either it still works or it doesn't. Okay, so all of that being said, let's move on to talking about selling damaged or defective items. If you are a perfectionist, or even if you aren't, you might hesitate listing an item that has flaws. And I want to push you out of your comfort zone here because that's where the magic happens. I want to open your mind or just reinforce why items do not have to be perfect and explain why someone could be waiting to buy that exact broken or damaged or defective item you have sitting in your death pile.
I'm going to prove to you that you can make money on eBay even selling items that are stained. Obviously, not every single thing with a stain is going to sell, but you may not have thought of this. You may not have thought that people would even buy anything imperfect. So, first of all, sometimes it isn't worth your time to try to remove a stain. It just depends on what the item is and what the stain is from. I see a lot of you out there wanting to know stain removal hacks and how to get a certain kind of stain off a certain kind of fabric, and that's great that you are trying it. Absolutely, you should give it your best effort to remove a stain before trying to sell something. But sometimes it's just not going to come out, and it becomes a cost-benefit analysis. You've got to decide if spending hours and hours trying to get a stain out of something is a good use of your time, and how much you expect to sell the item for if the stain is removed. So, all of this is about time. You've got to make these decisions about how to use your time the most wisely, because everyone has the same amount of time in a day, and it's what you do with it that matters. So you want to be as focused as possible on income producing activities throughout your day, obviously with balance, but you don't want to get hung up on things where you're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies, so to speak. You want to focus on those things that are going to make you the most money. So sometimes with stain removal, it's just leave it there. I personally don't bother with these stains. Underarm yellowing, urine stains on pants, which you're going to see that on men's pants because the prostate issue, it's just something that happens, and that's just the nature of that medical condition. So you're going to see that. Ring around the collar, permanent marker, blood, grass, or red wine. And these are stains on clothes I'm talking about, or fabrics. Obviously you can probably get permanent marker off of a leather shoe or a picture frame. That's not what I'm talking about here. We're talking about clothing. So when I see these kinds of stains on items at thrift stores, I don't buy them at all. But sometimes you'll see something that's a high dollar item or a high-end brand, and it will have a small defect on it and it's cheap, and you think, well, I'm going to try to get that stain out, but even if I don't, maybe I could sell it anyway. So that should be your thinking, is leave behind the obvious things that are not really possible to get out, and underarm yellowing and ring around the collar are two that are just not worth your time, because honestly it just looks gross and I don't want that on my listing anyway. So those are my guidelines for what I leave behind or don't even try. But this is meant to empower you, to give you some more ideas of how to make money on things that are imperfect. So you can sell stained items as is. Plenty of items sell as is with stains. And what you want to think about is, can the item be repurposed? Is it going to be cut apart and made into something else? Is the stain in a prominent area? Maybe it could be covered up with a scarf or a jacket or a cardigan, or it just doesn't matter. It could be a layering piece that's going to be worn underneath something. So brands like Icebreaker, North Face, Mountain Hardwear, Columbia, those types of brands that make base layers for things. Even if it's white and it has a bit of a stain on it, it may be a very expensive piece, and it doesn't matter because it's going to be worn under 3 layers of clothing outside anyway. You also want to think about elderly people that, and this actually happened. I was in a thrift store one time, and this man was shopping in the sweaters for his mom, and he said he looked kind of lost, so I kind of said, can I help you with anything? I felt like I should reach out to him. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to find sweaters for my mom. She's disabled. She's in a nursing home, and she spills food on herself a lot. And she likes to wear pretty clothes, but everything is getting ruined, and I don't want to spend all this money on pretty clothes. And they're trying to help her preserve her dignity by not just making her wear cheap clothing that he wants her to look pretty and feel pretty, but has some issues with feeding herself. And, this is his mom and he respects her. So he was trying to find sweaters for her, and he didn't care if they had a little bit of a defect on them because he knew that they were going to not last really long anyway. Or it was okay if they weren't perfect. So that's where I got clued in that, some people just don't care if there's a little bit of a stain on it. And as our population ages and more baby boomers move into, getting older, and maybe this is a situation where they want to wear nice clothes, but they don't care if they get messed up because, they've got health issues they're dealing with, or, that type of thing. So, that's just something to think about. Things can still sell as is, even if they have a stain. So you really have nothing to lose offering a stained or imperfect item, because the buyer may not care, or they may want to try to get the stain out themselves. Or the item might be used for drama, theater, costume, or a reason where a stain does not matter. So what you want to ask yourself when you buy the item is, can I at least get what I'm paying back? And this will be an experiment. If you've never done it before, you want to try it. And obviously if you're buying things for $2 or $3, yeah, you'll get your money back out of it. Even if you just sell it for $5, you're not going to lose anything by trying, is what I'm saying here. So your goal is to sell it for many times your investment, but your safety net is, well, I can always get what I paid for it. Now, you want to give full disclosure. Take several photos of the stain so the buyer will know what they're getting. Little sticky note arrows are great. You can put those on the item when you're taking pictures. If you're not good at photo editing and you don't want to go back and try to figure out how to put arrows and stuff pointing to the stain, these are great. You just stick it on there and take the picture. You also want to write the description of the stain, such as 1/2 inch stain to left of front zipper, 4 inches from hem, something like that. So you want to tell them exactly where it is in writing, as well as take a picture of it, because if there is a dispute, you'll have it on there in 2 places. You also want to put it at the top of the listing where it has the condition, and you'll say like pre-owned, small stain near collar, or whatever it is. So you can get these little sticky Post-it note arrow things at office supply store, Amazon, Walmart. They're everywhere. But this is a great idea to do when you're taking pictures. You don't have to go back and edit the photo and draw a circle around the problem or whatever it is. So as long as you can point to your photos and description about the defect, you're okay if the buyer files an item not as described case, because we all know that buyers do not read the listings, and sometimes they don't even look at all the pictures. What I do if the item has a flaw, before I ship it, I always message the buyer and say, hey, thank you for your purchase. Just want to verify that you saw the defect on this item and you're okay with that. If they don't answer, I go ahead and ship it within my shipping time frame. If they do answer and change their mind, then you can do a cancel the sale per buyer request. You don't get a defect to do that. I just try to verify with them to prevent any confusion later that they saw the problem on the item and they're okay with it. And I know I've said this many times, but when I first started eBay, this was how I earned my living and paid the bills. I had been through a divorce and lost my job, and making money was what I needed to do with eBay. It wasn't a hobby. So a lot of things I came up with out of necessity and because I needed to generate income. So one thing you can do is just to think creatively about things you might be seeing in thrift stores and come up with alternative ways to market them to reach a different audience. One thing you can do is market items for costume and theater use. Sometimes an item can be cross-promoted in the theater or costume categories. Drama clubs buy items all year long to build their wardrobes. I have some friends who are in the drama department at a high school, and this is where I learned about marketing to them, because they are always looking for costumes regardless of what season it is. They have a costume wardrobe that they want to constantly add to, and this goes for college, high school, even elementary school that have any kind of drama or theater program. Also, one thing with theater is that the stage is so far away from the audience they can't see the flaws, so it doesn't matter if the item isn't perfect. The audience isn't going to see it anyway. It's not like photography or film where everything's close up and you can see all the details. The audience is very far away. And sometimes you'll find a great garment that would be very expensive new that you can flip for a good enough profit for yourself, and you're also providing a product for a drama club. So you want to add keywords like drama, theater, DIY, which stands for do-it-yourself, costume, in the title. Obviously not on every single item, but when it applies. Also, sororities will have themed parties all year long, themed events. So they're looking for certain types of items. They will go on eBay to buy what they need to have the right costume for the sorority event. Now, these are just some ideas and things that I've done in the past, but this is really only limited by your own creativity. These things are out there and they absolutely can be marketed in creative ways. Red coats, capes, cloaks, hooded outerwear are great for Christmas plays like Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol and Little Red Riding Hood, as well as a number of other plays. So I've sold several of these in my eBay career, and I can't absolutely prove that they went to a drama club, but they do sell well. Overalls, not only used for gardening, but can also be used in drama and theater for Halloween costumes and for making scarecrows and those fake yard people people make with, stuffing newspaper or pine straw or hay into the legs and, making a pretend person that they put out in their yard with like a pumpkin head. But these do really well in the spring and the fall when people are actually out there in their gardens, and they need to buy these. So in the spring, it's for, I'm thinking more for planting and getting ready for gardening, and in the fall it's harvest time and also for Halloween and fall decorations. Navy blue or black peacoats, just a little bit of trivia. The name pea comes from the Dutch word pij, which I think it's pronounced pige, which means a rough woolen material. So that's where this name comes from. But this is indicative of sailing. Sailors wear this type of item, and navies. And so if you've got some kind of production where it's having to do with the military, the Navy, or sailors, this could be worn for that or for some type of costume. Now, peacoats normally have solid colored buttons on the front, not metallic buttons. That's the difference. And these also could be made for women. Now, sometimes you'll find one and you won't know if it's for a man or a woman. So one way to do that is to compare the measurements. You can find another one online or on eBay that is a women's and compare the measurements and see if that works. But the easiest way to tell is how it buttons. Men's button on one side, women's button on the other. If you forget which is which, you can always Google it or just go look in your closet. If you're a female, you're going to see how female items button, and men's would be the opposite. Another great costume item are military jackets and coats. These will have the metallic buttons. They may also have epaulettes. These can be long or short and in any of the military colors: black, navy blue, olive green, khaki, or even white. And epaulettes are these little flaps on the shoulders. These actually have a history. They were a useful part of the garment. Right now they're ornamental, meaning it's just a decoration. And they were used for holding shoulder belts in place. The shoulder belt held the sword. So this goes way back to pre-Napoleon times. The word is of French origin, but that's why they're there on garments. They did at one point serve a purpose. Now they're just decoration. And sailor dresses, they were very 80s style with the big flap collar and a sash in the back. And this would be a great World War II period costume. Could come in navy or black. I found one for $2 and sold it for about $50. Can't be sure that it went for drama or a costume, but this would definitely apply to either one of those. Then you've got long full skirts. Can be used for pioneer, peasant, gypsy, Renaissance, country western, many different periods. This is a great costume piece. It's very versatile. Also look for long white slips or crinolines. A crinoline is a skirt that's made of tulle, Tulle, and it's very stiff and it gives the garment shape. So this is often worn under bridal gowns to make it puff out, and these are pretty expensive when you buy them new. This is a great wardrobe piece for theater or for Halloween costumes. Lab coats are also great. People don't want to buy a new one because they might be making a costume where they're just going to pour blood all over it anyway. They don't want to ruin it. Why buy a brand new one when you're going to do that to it? So it does not matter if someone's name is embroidered on it or at the name of a hospital or whatever, people cover that up with stickers, or they'll make something to cover it up with their own name for Halloween, something like that. So these are a great piece to offer for sale. And you've got leather jackets. These are great for those grease productions when somebody's looking for the Sandy costume, or just a biker chick, those types of things. Also for bikers just to wear normally. You always want to put biker in the title when you have a jacket like this, because they will search for that. But this is a great costume piece when you find them cheap enough. Also corset tops. These lace up in the back or the front. These are popular for the boudoir photos or Halloween costumes or any type of drama with Renaissance or period pieces where they wore corsets. And then you've got the long white cotton nightgowns. These are also used for theater a lot of times for scenes where, like Little House on the Prairie, they're getting ready to go to bed. They've got their long white nightgowns on. Or some people just like to wear these. They're more modest, or they're living where it's cold and they want something longer and warmer. So I have sold many of these in my eBay career, and they are good sellers. Then you've got vintage lingerie and girdles. Now, very common for these to be used by cross-dressers or for drag customers, that dress in drag. So just don't be worried if that happens, if you get strange questions. These are just people who want to buy what they need from eBay. Nothing to worry about. It's just a segment of the population that like to wear these items. And I know I've sold these to people who were going to use them to dress in drag. So just don't let that bother you. You're just selling to people. All you're doing is finding an item and reselling it to someone who wants it. And they often buy on eBay because the selection is much better and it's more discreet. Just don't worry about it. It's just people buying stuff online.
Okay, I know that was a lot of information. I have a friend that calls me a walking encyclopedia, which I don't mean to be. I just remember things. But I wanted to give you some examples of at least types of clothing that will sell even if damaged, defective, stained. And you can even look for these things on purpose, knowing that they're going to be used for costumes, drama, cosplay, theater, all that kind of stuff. And that might open up a whole new world of opportunities if you start looking for these things on purpose and know they will sell even if they're not 100% perfect. This wraps up another episode of eBay the Right Way. Thanks again for taking the time to listen. This is Suzanne A. Wells, and you can find me on YouTube and Facebook under the same name. Be sure to follow me as new episodes are posted every Tuesday. Have a profitable and productive and fun day on eBay. Talk to you next time. Bye.